After letting my neighbor use my Wi-Fi for her online classes, I noticed my bank account getting drained. When I asked, she said, "Maybe you shouldn't have made it so easy." I reported it, but what she did next almost cost me my job. I didn't think I'd regret something as small as giving out my Wi-Fi password. She knocked on my door one afternoon. I was home folding laundry and listening to a podcast, not expecting anyone. She had a laptop in her hands and wore a friendly smile. Said she just moved in next door, was trying to take some online college classes, and her internet hadn't been set up yet. "I'm just behind on a few lectures," she said. "Would you mind if I use your Wi-Fi just for a day or two?" It felt harmless. I've always believed in helping out when I can. We live in a small apartment complex just outside Richmond, Virginia, and it's not like I'd ever had trouble with neighbors before. I gave her the Wi-Fi name and password. She thanked me, said she'd only use it at night to avoid slowing me down. At first, that's exactly what happened. I'd see the little glow of her laptop through her window. She never asked for anything else. I even felt a little good about it. Like I was helping someone trying to get their life together. Then 2 weeks in, I checked my bank account like I usually do on payday. I was expecting just over $2,400. Instead, it showed $1,792. I stared at the screen, confused. Maybe a bill came out early? But when I opened the transaction history, I saw 3 transfers, small at first, then one for $300 that I didn't make. That's when I really started digging. Over the next 2 days, more transfers showed up. All to a digital wallet under a name I didn't recognize. I changed my bank password immediately. Then I froze my card and called the bank's fraud department. They asked the usual questions. Have you shared your online credentials with anyone? Have you logged in on public Wi-Fi? That's when it hit me. I hadn't shared my bank login, but my Wi-Fi had been wide open to someone I didn't really know. I waited until I saw her in the hallway again. She smiled and waved like nothing had happened. I asked her straight up, "Hey, do you know anything about money leaving my account?" She laughed. Then she said, "Maybe you shouldn't have made it so easy." That sentence stuck with me. She didn't deny it. She didn't look nervous. She just turned and walked back into her apartment like nothing was wrong. I filed a police report the next day. I told them everything. Gave them the transaction details, the timeline, her name, and address. They didn't promise anything, just that they'd investigate. Then things got worse. I work in admin for a small publishing company. The job isn't glamorous, but it's steady and I've been there for almost 6 years. About a week after I filed the report, I got called into HR. They said someone had sent an anonymous tip that I was involved in a cyber theft scheme. They said the tip claimed I had been moving money illegally through digital wallets and possibly covering my tracks at work. I couldn't even speak. I just sat there, trying not to break down. I told them about my neighbor, the stolen money, the police report. But their faces didn't change. HR said they had to put me on leave until the situation could be reviewed. That moment nearly broke me. I hadn't done anything wrong, but it didn't matter. I had to leave the office that day, pack my things, and walk past coworkers who wouldn't meet my eyes. When I got home, I knocked on her door. She didn't answer. 2 days later, her apartment was empty. No lights. Curtains drawn. When I talked to the landlord, he said she left in the middle of the night. Didn't pay the last month's rent. The cops finally followed up a week after that. They confirmed the transfers came from my IP address and were routed to a wallet tied to her name. They said the evidence was strong, and they were preparing to press charges, but she had skipped town. Meanwhile, I was still fighting to get my job back. HR wanted written proof from the police that I wasn't a suspect. I called every day. Eventually, the police emailed me a signed document saying I was the victim, not the perpetrator. HR lifted the suspension after 2 weeks, but the damage had been done. Even now, months later, I hear whispers at work. Some people think I was involved somehow but got away with it. Others avoid me completely. I don't know who sent that anonymous tip, but I have a good idea. She tried to ruin me. She didn't just steal money. She made sure the fallout followed me everywhere. And I still think about her laughing in my face. Like none of it mattered. Like I was the idiot for trusting a neighbor. I still check my bank account every morning. I still unplug my Wi-Fi router when I leave the apartment. I haven't spoken to another neighbor since. A month after things settled down, I started getting weird texts. At first, they came from unknown numbers. Just one line each time. Stuff like, "You got lucky. Next time, keep your mouth shut." And once, just a simple, slightly smiling face. I tried to ignore them. Blocked each number. But new ones kept coming. Not every day, just enough to keep me paranoid. I changed my number. That worked for about 2 weeks, until the messages started again. That's when I realized it wasn't just about the money anymore. Someone wanted to keep this alive. Someone wanted me scared. I told the police again. They said it was hard to trace unless there was a threat of violence. They noted it, but that was it. Then one day, I got home from work and saw a letter taped to my front door. It was a printout of my old bank statement. The one that showed all the stolen transfers. Someone had circled each one in red marker. At the bottom, scrawled in the same red ink, were the words, "Should have kept quiet." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with the lights off, holding a kitchen knife, listening to every sound outside. I didn't know if it was her or someone she knew. I didn't even know if she was still in Virginia. But someone wanted me rattled. A few days later, my landlord knocked. He said someone had called pretending to be me, trying to break my lease. Gave all my personal info. When the office asked for verification, they hung up. But whoever it was knew too much, my social, my work address, even my mother's maiden name. That's when I really lost it. I drove straight to the police station and demanded they take it seriously. The detective on duty actually recognized my name from the first case. He promised to assign someone from cybercrimes to follow up on the harassment. Meanwhile, I was living like a ghost. I unplugged my Wi-Fi for good. Got a P.O. box for my mail. Started paying for a VPN just to feel a sliver of security. I even asked HR if I could work remotely, citing safety reasons. They allowed it, but I knew they were tired of hearing about my drama. Then, something strange happened. One of my coworkers, Paul, pulled me aside on a Zoom call. Said he got a weird DM on LinkedIn from someone with no profile photo. The message asked, "Is she still working there?" with my full name. That was it. Paul showed me a screenshot. I stared at it for a long time. I knew she hadn't done this alone. She was smart enough to drain money, smart enough to make me look guilty, but this level of stalking, weeks after fleeing the building? It didn't feel like just her. I started wondering if someone at work had been helping her. Maybe someone gave her access. Or maybe someone was getting paid. That idea sat heavy in my chest. I thought back to the anonymous tip HR got. How quick they were to act. How fast the rumor spread. What if it didn't come from outside? What if she had someone on the inside? I started paying more attention at work. Not just to the tasks, but to people. Who asked questions? Who stopped making eye contact? Who seemed too curious? There was one guy, Nolan. He worked IT. Quiet, kept to himself, but always seemed to know things before everyone else. He was the first to send me a "hope you're okay" email when I was put on leave, which I thought was nice at the time. But now, looking back, it felt off. I remembered that before all this started, I had asked Nolan to help me set up two-factor authentication for our shared office systems. He had remote access to employee logins, including mine. I started asking questions. Casually. Nothing direct. I asked how long he'd worked there, if he ever had neighbors who turned out to be nightmares. Just small talk. He didn't flinch. But the next morning, I found something on my desk that wasn't mine. A flash drive. No label. Just sitting there like it had been dropped or forgotten. I didn't touch it at first. I stared at it for a good 5 minutes. It could have been nothing. Or it could have been a trap. When I finally plugged it into a spare laptop at home, never my work one, I found only one folder inside. Backups. Inside were dozens of screenshots. Chat logs. Login screens. File directories. One file showed my email account accessed from a different IP, an address in Norfolk, where she'd supposedly moved. Another showed a chat between two people using aliases. One said, "Got it. She won't trace this." The other, "Just make it look like she's covering her tracks." That was the proof I needed. But it raised new questions. Why was this on a random flash drive? Who left it on my desk? Was Nolan trying to help or threatening me? I sent the contents straight to the detective handling my case. They told me they'd escalate it to digital forensics. That was the last update I got for a while. Until another letter showed up. This one wasn't taped to my door. It was mailed to my P.O. box. Same red ink. No return address. Inside was a single photo, me. Standing in the coffee shop near my office. Taken from behind. Circled in red, like I was being targeted. And on the back, 3 words, "You're not done." That's when I realized this wasn't about the money anymore. This was personal. I stopped going to the coffee shop after that. I stopped doing a lot of things. I changed my commute. Left work through the side door. Started checking under my car in the mornings like I'd seen people do in movies. Every sound outside my apartment made my heart race. I kept the blinds closed all day. I didn't even play music anymore. I needed to hear everything. The police still hadn't made an arrest. They said they were building a case, but the pace was slow, and I was running out of trust. They warned me not to confront anyone on my own, especially not someone I suspected might be involved. But the thing is, I couldn't wait around forever. One evening, after work, I saw Nolan in the parking lot, leaning on his car, scrolling on his phone. Something in me snapped. I walked up to him, fast, and he looked up like he already knew I was coming. "Why was there a flash drive on my desk?" I asked. "Why now?" He didn't look surprised. He looked tired. "You weren't supposed to find it," he said quietly. "It was for HR." "What do you mean?" "I was trying to warn them. She had help. Someone in payroll." I traced the IP access, but when I tried to bring it up, they shut me down. I stared at him, waiting for more. My hands were shaking. "She had a friend here," he went on. "A woman named Jenna. She quit right after you came back from suspension." I knew Jenna. She worked 3 desks down. Always chatty, always offering coffee. I thought she was just friendly. "Why didn't you say anything earlier?" I asked. He looked me dead in the eye. "Because they scared me, too." That was when I realized it wasn't just me. Maybe this wasn't one person messing with my life for revenge. Maybe it was something bigger, something organized. Maybe my neighbor was just one piece. After that night, Nolan stopped coming to work. HR said he'd taken a leave of absence, but his desk was cleared out the next day. And 2 nights later, I woke up to the sound of my door handle turning. It didn't open, thank God. But someone had tried. I checked my security camera, a cheap one I'd installed after the flash drive. It showed a hooded figure walking up at 2:41 a.m., trying the knob, then walking away calmly. I sent the footage to the detective. I never got a reply. At this point, I don't even know what they're still investigating. All I know is that someone is watching me. And I'm running out of places to hide. ChatGPT said, a week later, I came home and found my apartment had been broken into. The door was locked, no sign of forced entry. But the deadbolt fell off, too smooth, like it had been picked by someone who knew what they were doing. Inside, nothing was stolen. Not my laptop, not my bank cards, not even the cash in the drawer. But they'd gone through everything. Drawers left slightly open. Clothes shifted. Old bills pulled out and placed on the bed. Whoever it was wanted me to know they'd been there. Wanted me to feel exposed. I sat on the floor for a long time after calling the police. Just sat there staring at my own things, suddenly foreign. The officers took a report, dusted for prints. But we both knew they wouldn't find anything. 2 days after that, I got a plain envelope at my P.O. box. Inside was a USB drive. No note. Just the drive. I almost threw it away. But curiosity won. This time, I didn't use my own laptop. I went to the library and plugged it in, alone in the corner by the window. There were 3 files. All videos. The first showed security footage, grainy, but clear enough. It was from my building. It showed my neighbor, the one who started it all, entering Jenna's car at night, a month before any of this happened. They hugged. Talked like old friends. The second video was a screen recording of someone accessing the employee HR system at my job, changing status flags, updating profiles, backdating edits. The screen name said Jen in the corner. The third was a short clip. Looked like it was recorded from a phone, inside an apartment. It showed Nolan. Sitting at a table, his head in his hands. He said one sentence, "I didn't think they'd go this far." That was it. I haven't seen or heard from Nolan since. I gave the drive to the detective the next day. He looked surprised, like he didn't expect me to still be involved. He promised to escalate it. I didn't believe him. Because deep down, I think I'm still being watched. I started sleeping with the light on. Got a second camera. I barely talk to anyone at work anymore. Most people assume I'm just another burnout case. HR never mentioned Jenna again. It's like she vanished. But I know better. This wasn't a random scam. This was a setup. And I walked right into it the day I handed over my Wi-Fi password. Some nights, I still reach for the light switch, then stop, because the dark doesn't scare me anymore. What scares me is how easy it was for them to turn my life upside down, and how no one ever really came to stop it. And the worst part is, I don't think they were done. I think they just got bored,